I'd like you to welcome Heather Gold.
Wow. Kevin Marks, what an introduction. I've never been introduced like that before. Okay, if anyone's not familiar with me or my work, I'm a comedian. And I'm breaking right now one of the first things I want to teach you all, which is never use a lectern. I'm serious. They didn't have a laugh, but I may be, if the sound will still pick me up. Mark, are you recording?
Yes.
Will it still record me if I talk over here like this? Can you hear me?
No, sorry.
All right, so here I am, okay. Okay, so hi. How's your lunch? Fine. Has anyone not gotten food? Are you hungry? And you're here anyway? Okay, yeah, I know. Here's the thing. I thought you'd all be eating. Generally, I like to bring baked goods, give them to other people. I have a show where I've baked 24,000 chocolate chip cookies with people, and I'm a big believer in baked goods. Between that and the word tummel, you might have guessed that I'm a Jew. Anybody else here? One person, two, three. That's it? Google manages to run itself without any Jews? They're all working. I was going to say, what happened to the media conspiracy? I thought we were supposed to be in charge of everything. It's a relief to know, because we think we have to take care of everything. So to know that you guys have it covered without us is actually a great relief. Tummel is a Yiddish word that I heard Kevin use, and I think it's a great word to describe some of what I do, which I've had a hard time describing. I do interactive comedy. I do a lot of shows where I perform with audiences and run conversations and try to make them really authentic and energize and involve everybody. So the first thing I'd like to ask everyone to do, if you can handle it, is to unplug the crack from your arm and see if you can close the laptop and see if I can earn it for the hour. If not, if you open it up, I'll know what's going on. That's fine. But just see if you can try, and see if you maybe even want to come closer to me, because one of the things that I want to encourage you to do is to never make fun of anyone. It's one of the little inversions of comedy I've been practicing for 10 years. So I don't mock anybody or heckle, cut anyone down. If you like, because I like you, and if I had a lav, I'd be you're lucky, because I'd be like running up talking to you right now on the couch. What's your name? Simon. How's it feel over there?
Pretty comfy,
Yeah? Is it like a tush decision to be over there?
Yeah.
Okay. These chairs do. It should be fine. Okay, so comfort, also very important. When you want to design for conversation, which is the language I usually use when I'm explaining this, because business people sometimes need business language to understand what you're talking about, as much comfort as possible, and not physically if you're having a meeting, or if you're performing, if you're having a party, or if you guys are interested in running any kind of community or website or anything virtual, you want as much comfort as possible. That's because what we're going to get into today is mostly emotional. I'm sure you spent a lot of time at Google worrying about emotions. You want to give people a sense that you want to do everything you can to help people feel like they can be themselves. Because the best way to tummel is to be yourself, to be a very big version of yourself, as big as yourself as you can comfortably do. Tummel means to make noise, to help people kind of bring the noise. Anyone seen Dirty Dancing? One, two. A few women my age know, yes, nobody puts baby in a corner. Let's get that out of the way at the beginning of the talk. It's a great movie if you're a woman of a certain age. If not, you might still enjoy it. It's about the Borscht Belt era in the Catskills in New York, where most of the great stand-up comics that I look up to kind of got their start, including Mel Brooks, and most of them were tumblers. So part of what you're doing is performing high, like I can do jokes, and I'll probably do some jokes while we're here, but part of it involves getting all of you to be involved, not just sitting and listening, or ideally not even surfing, but getting to know each other. I mean, do you all know each other? This is really hard to do behind can I even pick this up? No. Okay. New challenge. Okay. So Simon is over there. Simon, where are you from?
San Francisco.
You grew up in San Francisco? Are you're the only one?
Yeah, just me.
What's that like? Really? Is it a good place to grow up? Because I only know it as a good place to go to.
It's better
You know what? We have inverted experiences because I grew up in a place that's good to leave. That's famous to go to, actually. I grew up in Niagara Falls, Canada. It's a famous place where many people go. Has anyone gone there? Lots of hands. Walking by man. What's your name? Jeff, how long did you go for?
How long? Oh, less than a day.
Jeff, you had the optimal Niagara Falls experience. Yeah, okay, 19 years in a place designed for half a day that Jeff had maximized the experience of. It was designed for heterosexual people to go have intercourse and call themselves honeymooners. And the entire city experience, I'm trying to be all, I know, if I was making that a joke, I'd use different language, but I figure I'm gonna Google, I'm not supposed to say thing, but you all know what I mean. So the place is designed for that experience, and I it's a little bit like growing up on the Strip in Vegas with a little Pittsburgh on the side, Niagara Falls. It's a very bizarre place that you kind of want to leave. But I grew up in a very small Jewish community within Niagara Falls, in the last remaining shtetl in the world. And for the majority of you who now have told me you're not Jews, and apparently have never watched Seinfeld, I will translate. Okay, shtetl is ghetto without the bling. It's a place where a lot of Jews, white-skinned Jews that now live in the US, their families are all from. And that part of that experience taught me about tummling, which is, if you're happy, I'm happy. That's the basics, it's that simple. We want everyone to be happy, and the number one way you're gonna do that is to care about everybody and notice them. Especially the people who don't seem that involved, like, I don't know his name, but he's wearing a red V-neck sweater, and he's got a little button down, and he seems pretty earnest, guys in the back row. What's your name? Patrick. At what point did you think I was mentioning you? Was it the sweater, or was it? Yeah? Where are you from?
Montreal.
Sweet, bienvenue. Another Canadian. Yes, you grew up there? Do you speak French? Do you wish you were speaking French? All the francophones I met, everyone I met in Quebec, was all very hardcore about the French. So you're not a francophone?
I grew up speaking French, European parents.
European parents. So you know how to translate sort of between cultures? You're not sure? You must. You spoke more than one language, right? So everybody speaks different languages, not just languages like French and English, but emotionally everyone communicates completely differently. So most of the time what you're focusing on, if you're trying to, I'm guessing many of you might be interested in this topic because you run communities, or you want to have a party that's great, or you want to have meetings that are great, or you want to, in the business you're running, you want people to have more connection with each other and be more involved and less bored out of their skulls and disconnected from one another. And what creates community, and a shtetl is very small, so I learned this from being in a community of 40 people. I learned it and from performing on stage for 10 years. Everyone has to be involved, and the most important people to be involved are the ones on the edge. Like Patrick didn't seem so interested, maybe a little interested. He's here, but he's got something else going on, but he's kind of on the edge, and he seems like his energy seems a little bit restrained, and a little bit quiet. Maybe he's a little bit shy, maybe a little bit introverted. No? I'm guessing, yeah? No? Sure? Okay, so I'm noticing all of that while I'm looking at everybody, and if I can involve Patrick a little bit, I'm much more likely to involve more of you faster than if I pick the person in the front row with their arm up, which was me in high school. So I have complete, compassion for anyone who's got that kind of energy. But one of the techniques that will pull everyone in is to go to the fringes. Go to the people who seem on the end, who seem like they have lower status in whatever your community is. And that, by lower status, I don't mean that as a moral judgment. I mean, compared to everyone else, they speak less, they seem less involved, they're more nervous, they know fewer people. And go up to them. And when you have the floor, when you have the energy, tummling is all about really energy direction. Community, tools are only as good as our emotions and our ways of socializing will allow us to be. And everybody wants to connect. That's a fundamental drive in life. So your goal when you're tummling or when you're running any kind of part of your conversation is the togetherness. And togetherness is a feeling. So I'm aiming for a feeling, and it's a little bit odd to be talking about it as I'm trying to do it, because I would have, if I'd had a laugh, I'd just go do it and then I'd deconstruct it after. But we're going to try and do both at the same time. It's one thing for me to be really entertaining, right, and tell you a lot more jokes, and that gets a lot of attention for me. But if I do that to hold focus, to show that I'm worthy of your attention, and this is true with whoever's hosting a conversation or is the main moderator of your listserv or your site, or whoever's the community manager or the CEO, whoever's in a position of I'm going to be an object of focus, that gives you a certain amount of authority. And I think the best way to create the bonds is among the community, whoever's there, is to then give some of it up, as much of it up as you can, while still taking care and containing the room. So I'm still noticing Patrick and Simon, and Simon at this point is a little more engaged. And what I'm doing is I'm naming exactly what's going on. So this is not that tricky a thing. This is a thing comics do all the time. It's a little bit weird. It's like explaining a magic trick, or Zappa would say dancing about architecture. It's a little bizarre to deconstruct some comedic stuff. But tension is what's unnamed. The stuff you assume. Sometimes what's really uncomfortable to talk about. Religion, sex, these are all great places to make comedy. How much money you make, is anyone getting laid off? Stuff people might want to avoid, that they care about. The reason it's powerful is because you care about it. And it's the caring that forms the energy in the room, and that lets you really tummel. Or anyone who's started any discussion or any minor community, if it's a small group on Flickr, or you run Metafilter, it's because you care. You care about something, and you hopefully care about people. And it's the energy of that caring that's going to help you, allow you to contain everyone and pull them in together. So, what's your name in the stripe? Yep.
Alejandro.
Alejandro. Where are you from?
Mexico.
Mexico? Where in Mexico?
Mexico
Mexico City.
City.
And do you manage communities? Is that something that you do?
Yes, I'm good to manage communities.
In Latin America, developer communities. And so when the communities you're talking with are communicating with one another, how personal are they with each other, or how problem-focused are they?
Not a lot. I mean, this is something that I know that I have to encourage this together.
You want more togetherness. And are you problem-solving successfully together?
Yes, I think the reasonable success, yes.
Okay. There's sort of a couple elements that go on when people communicate. One is data, which you guys know a little something about, right? Basic information. There's nothing I'm going to tell anyone at Google about how information basically works on here's the sentence kind of level. But the whole emotional layer of communication actually, from my experience, affects people much more than what you're saying. That's why a really good comic can say blueberry, and it's a laugh. It doesn't matter what they're saying almost. It's really not the language. It's the timing, it's the energy, it's an emotional substrate. So a lot of geeks are not always, myself included, aren't always great socially. It's sometimes a skill we have to almost intellectually learn. But you naturally have those skills. I don't have time in today's talk to go into my theory about why we maybe lose track of them. But you're born with them. You're born with knowing, does this person, are they nice, are they not nice? It's kind of that simple. Do you like me? Do you not like me? Are you really listening to me? Are you not listening to me? You can tell. You can tell, and that's a lot of what you're playing with. So if someone's talking to you, like Alejandro, I saw your energy totally change when you're talking to me. Your eyes got more open, your voice got a little bit louder. You were able to tell me part of why you care. Now I know part of why you're here, so why you're invested in this, which is you have a bunch of people. You have a problem yourself, which is we're doing sort of a certain kind of problem solving together, a developer community in Latin America, but everyone's really restrained. Now also culturally, probably that's a factor too. Overcoming personal restraints, one of the ways you can do that is by being more personal yourself. So one of the first things I would say, and just to let you know, I've got all of this information on the key tricks that I'm going to tell you all are on a 2 sheet that I'll show you where to download at heathergold.com. I don't believe in tons of PowerPoint because I'll lose your focus, and it's my job to contain you. And when you're tumbling or holding the attention of a community, that's your responsibility. And if you want to defer that to a tool or a PowerPoint slide, you're giving away all of your strength, which is you and your personal energy, which is way more interesting. I mean, Patrick, you cutting your finger is way more interesting to someone who cares about you than you solving, cancer kind of thing. It's your emotional, personal way of being in the world that gets attention. So one basic premise I want to be able to show people here, oops, how do I, now that we're on JPEGs, do this way, arrow? Okay, I'm an awesome visual artist. Okay, this is the difference between presentation and conversation, which might be intuitive to you, but I find it helpful to have an image sometimes. So most communication is formally that we're used to is on the left. Television is mostly pretty much that. Most meetings, anything with most of your tech talks, almost every tech talk I've watched is mostly that, is slides and listen to me, I know something you don't know. Conversation, you play a different role. It's more of a hub, and the thing that sits in the problem is, in the center is you as the person who's going to contain it emotionally, and the question itself or the problem itself. You want to name whatever the issue is, because nothing, this is an insight of Sarah Little-Turnbull's, who's a mentor of mine who created fitted sheets and industrial design, that nothing brings people together like a shared problem. So the thing that we're focusing on when you're going to deal with community management or tumbling or building a party or, in my opinion, building probably a company, this is what holds people together, is each other. Part of the reason we solve problems isn't just to build the bridge to get across the river. It's because the feeling of doing it together is awesome. That's probably one of the best feelings we have in life, is all being something together, being at a great concert, being at a party where we're all there, being on the same page in the same conversation, knowing for some people it's a religious experience. It's just a transcendent human experience. And so your goal is the feeling. And if you focus on the feeling, a lot of the other information stuff will happen. This is something people pay less attention to. The people who tend to pay a lot of attention to it are women, especially, at least the ones I know, a lot of Jewish mothers with this. This is one of their favorite tricks, which is, hi, want some chocolate cake? Sure. Well, you feel a little loved. You feel a little cared about. If she made it herself, you feel a little more loved. Not if someone else brought it and it was like Pepperidge Farm. And you're going to give something before you get something. So I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to share something. Like Alejandro, you could share something about yourself. You could go first. Number one principle, go first. It's your responsibility, and be vulnerable. Most people, you may think that getting listened to is because you're important. It's kind of a strange inversion. You already are important. You forgot that you're important. And if you treat yourself as such and you share vulnerably, every other person around you will give you more attention. And then what you do in tumbling is you play with the attention. You basically help redirect the attention. So does anybody else manage a community other than Alejandro in here? No? Well, what's your name?
I'm Dan.
You're Dan? What are you managing?
I work on Open Social. It's a big community effort.
Open Social. And do you guys do stuff where you get together in person?
Yeah.
And how important is that to getting anything else accomplished?
Well, so it's an interesting approach because it's important to help make things happen more quickly, but we do everything online for it to be official.
For it to be official. So what happens when you get together in person?
We talk about it and come up with proposals.
And come with proposals. Do you actually talk about your life with anyone? Even for 2 seconds? Yeah, and do you make friends? And does the group work better when you guys are friends? I'm just trying to add a little analysis to emotion because I'm translating. Just like the French to English for Patrick, right? Constantly asking yourself, I know for goal solving, or people are really into GTD. I know Merlin did a great talk here. Like, what is the point? What am I trying to accomplish? What's my next action? It's a comfortable place to think. Well, emotionally, you ask yourself the same thing. What is the goal? It's almost always togetherness. It will help anything else happen. Always. It will always help things happen because you'll have more people and more energy. Have you found any tricks that work to help open people up? Cake? Have you tried cake?
Well, that was obvious in college.
In college? Food? Food is good. Personal storytelling, really good. the best, freest thing you could possibly do. Now, I'm super comfortable doing it. I've done it a ton, but you've all done it a lot too. You just haven't done it in public, but you do it all the time. You have a sister, a mother, a brother, a friend, a parent, somebody you're telling about your life. Those are the people who care about you. All you're doing on stage is you're just doing that big time. You're just like, let me all tell you, what's going on in my life, and I'm perfectly comfortable with you all hearing that. But the fact that I'm going first makes other people a little less afraid, because I'm going to be potentially laughed at or not laughed at. Then it's important to remember that you can be imperfect. That's even better. Don't think you have to be like, I'm Steve Jobs, and I've, analyzed everything, and apparently people think, God, I wish I could present like Steve Jobs. Who cares? I mean, he's good at lots of stuff, but do you really care about the man? Do you know him? Has he told you anything about himself? Like, you can so quickly get the attention of everyone in that room, Dan. If you told everybody about the day your child was born, if your child was born, or the first day you fell in love, something really emotionally resonant, or the reason this problem matters to you, if you probably go underneath whatever problem you're working on, I don't care technically what it is, Alejandro, there's a reason you're doing it. Why do you have this job? You could have another job. You could be a mechanic, or you could be building bridges. You could be doing a million other things. There's something in it that for you, from your point of view, makes it meaningful. And if you acknowledge that, people will go to the level of meaning and emotion much faster. So for me, I was a complete outsider and outcast growing up outside of my little shtetl. I was a complete nerd. Some of you may not relate to this. I coped with life through books. There was no laptop then, and I didn't have anything this portable and light to carry around with me. It's like a little security blanket, let's acknowledge that. It does a lot of cool stuff, but part of the reason we get so excited to tell other people about all the awesome stuff they can do in their little machine is because the machine makes us happy sometimes. It gives us a place to feel comfortable, to feel contained. So when you're tumbling, when you're running a community, when you're managing, and in my mind, if you're going to be a good CEO, you're a container. You're an emotional container. It's a little psych term I picked up from a therapist once, and if we've got a better term, I'm totally open for it. But you're basically going to form the kind of conversation we're going to have by being willing to handle everything that comes up. Jeff walks through the room. Alejandro has a bit of an accent, so I'm going to work to understand his accent and try to acknowledge where he's from. Patrick's a little shy, so I want to acknowledge him and not make him too uncomfortable. I don't have a lav, so I'm going to find a way to be as personal. You've got to take whatever comes to you, which means some people will be mad at you. Some people will be schmucks. Some people will want to talk a lot. You have to let all of that be okay. Tools and rules will never, ever do as good a job as your confidence that you can handle anything. It's very time-consuming to run through 50 rules in your mind. It's not so time-consuming to just be there and say it's okay. And most people, I don't know if anyone has a particular problem they might want to bring up where there's someone giving them a hard time, and you guys are really very attentive, although I know I just met you from BBC, from Mashable Camp. Adriana, are you taking notes? Yeah? No, I already took notes for you, just letting you know. Tweeting. Oh, you're live tweeting. That's sweet. Okay. So, sharing while you're experiencing. And are you sharing partially because you're kind of excited about your learning? Or because you're really bored out of your head? They're totally fine. You can totally tell me if I'm sucking the air out of the room. Connectivity addiction? Because you feel like you're with a lot more people. Do you want to be with us? You can totally be with them. It's very important not to make anyone do anything. Try thinking you can make someone do something is a complete self-delusion. It doesn't really work. So it's totally up to you. But I'm working on it here. I've got a little bit more. People are mostly. Simon's laptop is closed. Look at him, and he's totally with me. Sweet. It's not even as painful as a childhood in San Francisco with hippies and bad Guatemalan vests and too much purple and 2 haircuts in one. It must have been ugly. Yeah. Aesthetically challenging, I would think. To say, yeah, I know. It's its own little world. It is. Everybody has their own little world. But then you've learned what they really mean when they say love. That's part of the translating thing I'm talking about. When someone says something, what are they really getting at? Like you're saying, I'm Twittering. Well, why? Because I really want to be with, and part of, as the net grows and what people are building at Google, part of what we're getting is that sensation a lot when we're online. I get it a lot. You feel like we're all now on the same wavelength and we're all kind of surfing. It's kind of a flowy feeling. It's really cool. That's driving. Go ahead.
The advantage of me is that I have to access more help. So I'm paying a lot more attention.
Yeah, it's totally a certain kind of attention. That's right. So for you, it's totally working. But in terms of tumbling, here's what happens if someone isn't. Which isn't, and again, it's my responsibility to make it worth your while. And it's totally fine if you don't want to. I'm not going to mention it again to make you uncomfortable if you want to. But it works, but energetically, emotionally for the room, what happens is if someone feels like, well, I'm more comfortable here alone because my little emotional container that's better for me than you is this, which is true a lot of times. I mean, I know the best reason to have this is I have to go for a ride with my parents somewhere. I mean, this is like better than heroin, right? Or whatever my other option is going to be. Lying, that's another one. Complete repression. So part of the circle and I'm going to go back here. Part of the difference here is in the side where it's the one-to-many. It's ironic, we're so interactive, yet every conference we go to is a one-to-many PowerPoint presentation. There's nothing interactive about it, which is why people Twitter their heads off. Because no one's noticing you. Why? Because we don't spend time learning to do what I'm doing right now, which is mostly what a lot of artists and actors learn to do, which is I'm making a lot of eye contact and I'm reading energetically the room constantly. It's like a constant feedback loop for me. And I'm reading based on who's involved, who's not involved, why not, and then I try to give as much energy to the edges as much as possible. And ideally, what I would be sometimes do in shows, and what I'd really recommend you guys do with the communities you manage, is give someone else a lot of attention. Could you guys hear what Adriana was saying about why be on a laptop? No, a little bit. Can you say it a little bit louder, or you can come up here and say it here if you want. So what was it doing for you?
It was, apart from seeing what feminists we're doing, which is interesting in itself. Sorry, you see?
He's fine. That's fine, right? It's okay.
It makes me pay more attention because I have to pass it on to other people. So actually, I was probably paying far more attention than I would have done. That's just me. So but the fair point is about the energy.
Right, so the intellectual level, that's right. There's a way in which you're translating, and what you're doing is you're giving your energy to everybody you're with on Twitter, so you're with them. And you're totally with them, and they'll feel that. And they'll be like, oh, Adriana said this cool thing, and maybe they're adding her back, going, well, blah, blah, blah. And it's going back and forth, back and forth. But in the room, we lose a little bit because she's a little bit less of her is here. But if I can help, could you hear this time? Blue stripy shirt? Yeah, what's your name? Tom? Okay, you can hear? Okay. So if I can help her, give her the floor, and I've been sort of tumbling without moving, which has been an interesting experience for me, and without baked goods, both of which are very important to me, then I'm saying, okay, let's pay attention to Adriana. And then it's like kindling, it's like building a fire. And she has a little different flavor, and it's a little bit, and also because I can tell you're maybe a little bit of a shy person. You're not a big, verbalizer, at least until you maybe know people better, or in a smaller group, and that actually helps. This is an interesting thing. People think, oh, we just have to be big, loud to get a lot of attention. No, actually, sometimes you get more impact by going to someone who seems less likely. In fact, usually. And the more difference in the room, it's kind of, someone can explain to me if this works in physics, because I'm very interested in seeing the things I know emotionally, if they're true in the physical world. If the more difference, the more the energy builds, the faster. So what I usually like to do, like if I was gonna do this talk show style, we didn't have time to do it, I would say have Adriana and maybe Patrick and maybe Simon come up. You'd be my little guests. We'd have this conversation about how you run meetings. I'd ask Alejandro for his input. You guys seem a little bit different, like you come from different backgrounds, have different personalities, you're different genders, ideally try to have different races, as much difference as you can possibly get. Doesn't matter, because you're giving points of entry. That's part of the reason things grow virally, emotionally online. It's not just that the data transfers, it's that you can relate to whoever it is who's talking to you because you care, because they speak from your point of view, and therefore you have access to the larger conversation. If no one speaks to you, if they can't hear you and you can't hear them, it doesn't matter how much someone else wants to tell you how important the thing is. This happens in, say, marriage all the time. It's a nightmare. If you're not speaking the same language, you've got to find some way to meta-translate. So I'm trying to do a lot of that too. I'm going to tell you what shtetl is. I'm going to try and say, and all of this is just going, what do I mean? What's the point? And noticing, are you engaged? You're more engaged now. Alejandro's a little less engaged. Maybe he's thinking, he's got a thinking face on. And Simon's still pretty here. And Tom is more interested than he was at the beginning of this. So this is just, I'm sort of explaining what I'm doing as I'm doing it. I'm trying to do a little controlled scrimmage. It's a little meta, but you guys are super smart, so I know you can follow it. It's like, I'm going to explain comedy while I try to do it. One of the things that I think is happening culturally is just a very big idea, is that before we had one-to-many, we had sort of villages of small groups, like the shtetl I'm talking about. But you had a lot of repression. People were the same. Your whatever culture you come from, there's probably a certain way to be, and there's only so many things you can say, and if you kind of step outside those lines, you're kind of socially smacked. And one way to deal with that is to say, well, this group doesn't hold me very much, but this will. So I'll go over here. And this is just a way to get to other people who hear you. People want to be heard and noticed. So what I think we're moving into a really profound time, because then we went to one-to-many, which is sort of urban life, right? Where we have, it's sort of like Oprah era of communication. We have experts. We still deal with a lot of experts. I'm not a fan of just one expert. That's why I like open stuff. And in that kind of one-to-many domain, you end up with the attention all going into whoever the big leader is, whoever's in the front of the room. And then we think they're special because we've all given them our attention, and then they get more attention from more people, and they do more book tours and more speaking. They think, aren't they important? Don't they know something we don't know? Well, that's kind of changing, as you guys know if you're part of the web culture. People are like, I actually know something. I refuse to forget that I know something. The truth is, the goal of the one-to-many, you'll never connect everybody the same way, except through one or two people who are standing in for you, and it's not quite the same experience. We're going all the way back, like with this kind of conversational hub model, it's kind of like the shtetl, except without the repression. How can we all be together and be ourselves and be different? And that's why containment is so important and also so tricky. Because I have to accept that someone here might want to yell at me, argue with me, tell me I'm full of crap, tell me I make no sense to them, not pay attention to what, not get involved, which is basically voting by saying, I don't care as much, And so to me, this is a big place that we're at, and why, in my opinion, people are community managers or the CEOs of tomorrow. I think it's the most important skill in business. Because the only way we're going to get more ideas is to have more people involved. And the only way to have more people involved is to listen to more people. And the only way to listen to more people is to learn to see them and hear them. And that's a major emotional translation issue. And you've got to put out to get them. You've got to go out to let them know they matter. There's no escaping the emotional footwork of letting people know that they matter, that they're there. Thanks, Dan, for your participation. That's all right. I really appreciate it. So are there any particular questions or problems you wanna pose with this, or things that you're facing that you'd like to figure out how to approach better? Or I could just do Mitch jokes for the rest of the hour, which I'm happy to do. What's your name? Tyler. Hey.
I find this whole online community thing really foreign to me. I don't understand how to connect to it at all, and real life I fully get to connect to people and have conversations. And I guess I'm wondering, maybe from people in the audience, who are involved in online communities, what is it that gets you connected? Because I think that there's a huge bunch of people like me who are I don't get it, right? And who could be reached, right? I mean, I have one knitting community that I actually.
You spend a lot of time online anyway, right?
Yeah. I'm researching stuff all day.
So you're there.
Yeah, so it's I'm sure I could benefit
it's
from.
I'm hanging out in the cafe, but no one's talking. I'm not really talking to anyone.
I don't even think I've found the cafe I like or something.
I'm considering the entire internet a cafe in that metaphor.
Yeah, I'm at the cafe and I don't even know how to start the conversation.
Does anybody want to say explain what they get out of any of the communities they belong to online, or why they bother participating, other than it's they're paid to do it? If anyone does, Kevin, you want a shot at it, or?
I can have a bit of a go at that. I mean, what it is for me is finding people who have something to say, who are interesting, and then following them. So So I find someone like Heather or Adriana who will write something online, and I can read that again, or I can watch that, and then see how people react to that. And a lot of it is following the connections between people, because people are going to do something that you don't expect. But once you find someone who's interesting, they'll keep pointing at new interesting things, and then you can respond back with just a "wow, that was great," or with a considered response or something else. But at that point, you find a connection with them.
So Tyler, how are you learning new ideas?
I guess from email lists, like they're very focused, and like I know my time is going to be wasted. So like work email lists. I have a couple of email lists that I'm on with various groups I'm involved in. So
stuff that's already really directed that you think you've filtered to be like, I know I like this information. So there's not a lot of room for the unexpected.
Right. Yeah. And so I guess I'm wondering, like, from an engineer perspective, how do we like inject that unexpected into people like me who aren't looking for the unexpected and yet could benefit from it? You know what I mean? Like,
you just do something because you feel like it. It's a little different. It doesn't really matter, to tell you the truth, what it is. Could be you. You could just do something different. Like you knit. Do you think they'll expect you to knit? Do they know that you knit?
Certain communities don't.
Right, like so contrast, like I was saying, difference. This is bizarre to be so bent over because of this mic. The difference is the best part. That's where a lot of comedy comes from. It's just going, here's what you say, and here's what you do, and they're totally different. Or like I wear lipstick and a tie, because I really like a lot of difference all the time. But energy gets released more, the more difference there is. And, Mormons and gay people now, oh boy, there's a lot of energy going on in the country. If any of you are following Prop 8, I wanted to also drop in a major thank you to everyone at Google for speaking up for my marriage. So thank you. For the company supporting that. But so there's this major difference, and the more different the difference is, the more intense it is. Now, in the one-to-many model, what we've had in most media is we'll have a debate. We'll have two people who disagree with each other, and they'll verbally punch each other in the nose. Now, it totally releases tons of energy, and it's a fun spectacle to watch for a lot of people, but it doesn't always involve you necessarily. So the main thing is, what are you trying to find out? And you might find it from other people. Not just from the people through, so the list is containing you. The list is sort of safe because you know it's relevant. You know your time won't be wasted. This is the thing about an emotional plane is it's going to feel, if you're used to filtering life completely on an intellectualized basis, it will feel like time wasted. You're going to have, that's one feeling you might have. But if there's enough feeling of connection and fun or playfulness, it'll usually make up for that to make you more comfortable, because that gives you room for things that feel less connected. Because for me, part of what's fun is connection discovery. Like Kevin, I just love figuring out, we have 15 more minutes, and it would be really cool to find out if you and Tom and Simon have something else in common that we didn't know. That is just, I love those moments of connection. And the less, looking for an answer to a problem is one thing, but offering something about yourself is the fastest way for people to meet you. So an email list isn't always the easiest place to do it, but it depends. If people are, you just tweak the rules a little. You just say, hey, what if you posted about some other knitting problem? I mean, some people might think it's bizarre, but 3 other people might do it, might have an answer. And then you might talk. And the purpose of the talking isn't just to find out the answer to the problem. This is a thing it took me a long time to realize. People don't just go to the concert because they like the music. They don't just talk about the problem because we want the problem solved. We want the act of the togetherness. In fact, maybe we do all these other things only in order to have the togetherness. I don't know. That's not an answer I have. But okay, this is no longer different enough. Did that make sense? Does anyone else have an online, Adriana?
I think what Kevin said, but actually for me, wanting to be online has to do with the fact that it's a world where I can drive my own identity. I can be who I am. I can't do that offline.
So Adriana, that's so wrong. I'm here to tell you, please be yourself all frickin' day long.
We're not able to be defined by papers, by positions, by our identity, whatever it is. Online, you can actually connect with people through how you think and how you want to be. Offline would take me years and years of talking to my best friends for them to fully understand how I think. Online, I publish my blog, my Twitter, you can get an aggregate of who I am. in a much more distributed manner, in a much more convenient manner.
In a much more emotionally safe.
Matter. It depends who I am. If I want to be emotionally there, yes. If I want to be intellectual there. The point is that I'm driving my own identity. So I go to that world because I can, every time I do something, I'm adding to who I am in a way that I can't do offline. There's no way of doing that.
Distribute it, right?
Yeah. Or it's just I'm more autonomous online than I am offline.
Does that resonate for anyone? The idea that you feel more yourself online than in this? I don't like meat. It's so.
I just know online I can drive it more.
You feel more empowered to be.
No, I can drive it more. I can actually express it more.
You can express yourself more online.
That my identity. I can shape it more than I can do it offline.
You can change your identity more online.
Shape it. I actually don't want to change it. I want to be myself, so I get people who are like me and I can connect with them better. I don't want to change it.
Okay, see? Eventually I'm getting closer to understanding what you mean. It takes a while sometimes to know what someone means. All you have to do is ask. It's really simple, little tricky rules here. Ask people. It still may take me a while to totally get it on a feeling level. That's where we get connection from. That's where the vibe is. We're all laughing at the same joke. Yep. What's your name, by the way? Sharon. Okay, it's going to ask Adriana. I'm just doing that so it'll pick up on the...
I'm just curious how you know that people are getting you. Like, I see the two of you trying to interact, and she keeps trying to reflect back at you what she thinks you're saying. You're saying, no, that's not what I mean.
So I'm not doing it. I'm more because
But
process.
how do you know that all those people who are reading about you are not just making up their own thing about what
Ooh.
you are?
In early days.
Hold on one second. Just make sure. Did everyone hear what Sharon said? Just so everyone can participate in this. Sharon's asking Adriana, how do you know everyone actually is getting you? They might not be getting you, just like you're saying it's taking Heather a while to try to understand your meaning right now. Not because you're so special. I think for any of us to communicate, it's a process. Not that you're not special. I mean, not that there's something wrong with you.
It's not everyone. I don't care about everyone. I care about new people, different people. It doesn't matter. Not everyone. I want to reach those who are interested. It's me. Secondly, early days when you blogged, well, people sent you emails when there was no comments in the early days. You just get emails from people who say, "I'm so glad you're saying this. This is really interesting. I think the same thing, and I thought I was the only person in the world who was thinking that." Later on, there were comments. Then there was IM. Then there was social networking, Facebook. Then there was, all the connectivity that you have with people is the feedback. It's the pings back from people who might get you or might be part of the network.
So one of the things, if you're trying to do this in person, obviously I like to do it, but I try to do it online too, which is it's totally about feedback and giving a lot of it. And one of the ways to try to get closer is to make someone feel safer, contain them more. And one of the best ways to do that is mirror them. And you described me doing it, Sharon, really well. I'm doing what people do with children, which we all need basically our whole lives, which is it's a more affirmative way of figuring out what someone thinks than arguing with them. Doesn't mean you agree with them. I don't even know. I just know I don't yet know what Adriana means. But holding that mental place, if you're really trying to contain a room, whether it's as an entertainer or a host or a CEO, it's that mindset, I guess, that Buddhists call beginner's mind. It's being quite empty. Kind of like Merlin would say with Inbox Zero, it's just not knowing. Staying in that place of not knowing is a lot easier. It requires a lot less work. Than a lot of other stuff. It requires emotional work because you might have a reaction. Like she might say something, she has a look on her face like she's angry, that I don't get her, and I could say, oh my God, Adriana doesn't like me, then if I have issues around that, I'm not here to do therapy, but it's available from other people, and that's where you learn how to deal with that. But if you could just notice that that's about her, not about you, and that's a major skill set you need to do this. I find it easier to do on stage than personally with people, but it is helping me with personal relationships. So just to help kind of deconstruct all of what we're doing here. So I know Adriana feels much more strongly that she's really heard and connects with more people who really get her online faster, it seems, in a way that I'm trying to sort of mirror back, mimic, in my own language, say what I thought I heard you saying. But the one thing I know for sure, forget describing it, is you care about it a lot. And you probably all could see that because became more adamant. Your voice went up. Your energy was, I know it's a touchy-feely word, energy. Someone find me a scientific explanation for why I get to say energy. But you were more engaged. You were more like, no, you don't get this. It's because so you care. I know you care about this. And that is the critical thing in bringing everyone together. It's a bit of a subtle point I'm making here. What she's saying almost matters a little bit less. Not that it doesn't matter to you that I understand what you're saying. The amount you care affects us the most, and that's true for all of us. Is that useful, or now you want to tell me did that make sense to you? Okay. So,
actually, I spend a lot of my time explaining ideas to people, especially young people, and I wish they cared more about what I'm saying than about the fact that I care.
And you think that they're more into your energy?
And people go, oh, I love your passion. I'm like, no, listen to the ideas. I don't care about the fact that I'm passionate. It does annoy me a lot, actually, because I'm passionate about the ideas.
About the ideas, and you want them to understand the ideas.
Understand those ideas. They can ignore me. They can, I don't need them to remember me. I want them to take those ideas. So the fact that people notice that I'm passionate about it can be occasionally frustrating.
That's an interesting. Has anyone else come across that as an issue where you feel like people are distracted by emotion and rather than reason, they don't care enough about they don't. It's I think it's probably a bit of a geek issue, but an important one to address, and certainly one that matters for you. But more people, more frequently, God knows you've been probably to enough conferences where people had more about information and less passion, or they had the passion and they didn't let themselves convey it. So, I mean, if there's one thing I can leave you with in the next few minutes is please, first of all, don't stand behind a lectern. Please, God, don't, if you have an option. Please don't use a whole PowerPoint presentation to explain to people what you already know. Have a conversation, even if it's just with Adriana. I had all these points. I could have stood here and gone through them, but I did them in conversation with people in the room, which helped me more and made sure it was relevant and I could see your faces that you cared, right? That I was on the money. If you decide to contain yourself with your tool, whatever it is, like your laptop or the presentation, or it's a good one, I'm going to look at the screen while I talk to you for an hour. I don't know how many TechTalks end up like that. You lose the juice. Now, you're fortunate, Adriana, that you're comfortable being passionate publicly. I think that's a challenge for some people, and I'm happy to talk to people after if you want to ask me or email me. That's another talk for me to address or another practice. I mean, practicing is a good beginning, just practicing doing it. And for me, one tip that helped me with stand-up is I watched a lot of people do it badly. And then I told myself I was allowed to be as bad as them. So, just because someone is really socially uncomfortable and they speak, just know, okay, that means you get to do it too, and it'll only be a little bit better. And every time you do, it'll be a little bit better. So that's the key. The key thing about a passionate, because we only have 5 more minutes, I want to make sure if there's any other big issues before I wind up, or questions, or things you really want to know about, things you wish we talked about. Tyler, did we address well enough do I want to be part of an online community or not really?
My question actually is less, do I want to be part of an online community, and more as a software engineer and as a designer type, like, how can we address the issue where people don't get engaged because they don't have that, oh, I'm curious, or oh, I want to explore, and yet I think the community at large could benefit from more involvement, as you're saying. I mean,
so
more
you
ideas
find out
better, right?
what they care about.
Getting the job done instead of actually connecting, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I guess.
Hold on, I'm sorry. What's your name?
Hugo.
Hugo, could you mind repeating it so I can say it for the tape?
I was wondering if people are focused on getting the job done instead of on connecting, because that is the primary focus.
Are you focused more on supposedly being what's called productive in terms of your work and output that leads to a national GDP than you are on the act of connecting? Because we're sort of told it's been privatized. And that top-down model I gave you, right? You're talking about a whole lot of years where women connected privately. We were in charge of social connection, and men went out and worked. This is ages ago, right? And it was all about productivity. And now, hopefully, we're integrating, and we need to bring all those skills around connection because they're really critical to getting things done, and certainly to forming longer-term bonds. So you're going to keep solving problems or actually finding out information you don't already know. They sort of support one another, ideally. So anyway, that's my little commentary. What do you think, Tyler, about Hugo's question? Do you think because people are focused on productivity and not connection?
I think it's that, like, like age-old, like, you know, if you look at 100% of the time you're trying to get something done, really 10% of that time is actually doing it, and the other 90% was the unquantifiable, unexplainable to your boss, you know, creativity, interacting, whatever. And so I guess the root of my question is, like, how do we foster that, and how do we make that valuable, and does that therefore mean that more people participate in the creativity part, which is the connection.
Which is, how do we make this happen? Well, I'm happy to help anyone who needs more help with this, or do this more next time for other people with even a handheld mic, so we can have a little more involvement with everybody. Getting together in person is really great, but I can do this kind of conversation personally for 1,000 people. So it's a scalable thing. And I really believe emotionally can scale online too. There's not enough for us time to address exactly how, but most of the pieces we've addressed, you do it through other people and then some of these other techniques. So you don't talk literally to each person, but that's just like how, say, Gmail grows, right? Google isn't going to personally contact each person who gets a Gmail account. You make a contact that matters with some, and so on, and there's a way to do that in a room, but you just have to know that you are emotionally responsible for the caring, and then trying to tap in where other people care too. I mean, that's the thing, is you find out that there's tons of energy in lots of people that's completely unused. I mean, part of the reason you probably all work at Google is, you get to be more, you're dressed more like yourself. I mean, the Valley's totally changed business culture in the US. Why would you dress casually? Because you're more yourself. I mean, it's one little step towards more connection, and a small example in the past. So I think it's the next major frontier. I know people might think community management is like a chick thing. It's really soft skills, and you just have to listen to people's problems, and that sucks. But when you approach it in an integrated level, and you realize that that's part of how you're going to solve the problem, it's as valuable as anything else. Sometimes more, because people will stay connected together because they have relationships sometimes without even a problem to solve. Just for fun, imagine that. Okay, so I want to make sure we leave in time for the next speaker. I want to thank all of you guys so much for being here, and thanks for participating, Simon and Tyler and Sharon and Adriana and Patrick left us, and anyone else who didn't, when Tom left, but anybody else Kevin for bringing me. And as you can see, Sharon? Okay.
So what technique are you using to remember everybody's name?
I've done it many, many times, and part of it is that I make a point to do it. And part of the reason I make a point to do it is because, and I recommend doing that, like find out something about the person when you make contact with them. It makes, just even for a moment, I do some of the stuff I'm describing, I do very quickly. I mean, to be fair, I read people now at this point, right brain very fast. And that's why I can do a room of 1,000 people in a conversation live. And I can explain more of that later, but no way that I can convey to you. Make sure you do something where I go, I'm talking just to you, I see you, something about you, where you're from, your cookie, whatever. People in sales do it, but they do it in order to make a sale. I'm doing it because I want to know you. And then if I want to refer back to you, I can say, well, Sharon said da-da-da. And then that gives you an opening, you're another point of entry for you to talk again, for you to take the floor, for you to have the attention. And as I get some attention and I give it to you, it kind of grows faster in the room. I don't know if you guys can feel it, but I certainly feel a room that is much more connected than when I first stood here. It would be easier for you to talk to each other right now. It would probably be most easy to talk to me because I talk the most and I'm the most vulnerable, and I'm obviously willing to talk to anybody. But the more like Tyler now, it's easier to talk to you because you've shared something about what you want to know, and people know your name, and so that's just the quick answer. It's not you just do it, but you care. There's really nothing underlying caring. It's probably what makes businesses and products great. It's what makes relationships. It's a very central thing. I want to know. I want to treat people the way I want to be treated. I mean, if you want to know what it all comes down to, it all comes down to a very geeky, nerdy adolescence that wasn't so comfortable, and I wanted to figure out how to make it different than how I experienced it. So that's what I work on. So thank you very much. My site's heathergold.com. There's a link there for 2 pages of this stuff with a bunch of notes, little tricks, and I really appreciate you having me. Thank you. I brought stickers.